Steve, episode 35 of the Broadway block. It's been a while. All-Star break happened, couple games, 3 wins, 1 loss in the shootout to Detroit, in with 71 points behind the Canes with 74. What did you like about the last couple games? What haven't you not liked? What do you want to see out of the Rangers the rest of the season, Steve?
Well, you had to think that the scoring was a little unsustainable. The scoring's been a little lower in the last few games, but for both teams. So Igor's been outstanding. I think that it's not a rumor at this point. The guy's legit. He has basically a mirror image of the same stat line as Carey Price did the year that he won the Hart Trophy. So I think that he's in a shoo-in at least for the Vezina at the moment. And for me, he's the most valuable player on the team whose name isn't Fox. I'd say if you're gonna put me against the wall, I have to take Igor. This dude's been winning us games that we had
25 wins.
Unbelievable. And the way that he does it, the way that he has this confidence. I know we were just chatting before that we started about this poise he has with the puck. It's really creating a new element that, being so used to the days of Henrik Lundqvist, which no knock on him, he just really wasn't a puck handler. I think we're spoiled, man. What do you think about maybe Igor, but what do you think about the last few games?
Oh, I think there's obviously Igor has been a highlight the whole season. Like you were saying, the stick handling is really an advantage. He's been close to that empty netter. I think what was that, the Ottawa game? He was right there for that one. I almost thought he even had an apple that game, which is when he gets the puck, when you're on the power play, a defenseman doesn't have to come back. He can play it right back to the blue line, which is a great advantage. But you also see how he carries himself. Okay, so he was posting the shutout, and at a minute 02, he got OV'd, and we looked sloppy for the last 2 minutes. Oh, we got this game in hand, but came right in front of for OV. He knocked it right in, but you saw Igor right away. He was upset. He wanted that shutout. He's gonna remember that feeling. I'm not gonna let that one in. He had stopped Ovi 2 or 3 times in that game, so that was great.
What's weird? I think that he handled that the same way, man. I think that he was disappointed in not getting the shutout, because sometimes when a goalie gives up a goal like that, you don't want to see him getting upset, because it's dude, we're winning the game. With the team played great. It's don't let it bother you type of thing. But I like that you say that he felt disappointed in not getting the shutout, because I kind of got that little vibe from him too. Just the way he looked up in the air, it wasn't guys, you ruined my shutout. It was more man, I could have had that one.
I could have stopped the shutout or made the shutout happen myself. I agree with that, which I like. He's a big energy on the team. Igor has been Ryan Reeves. We talked a little bit before, that big hit behind the boards, sending it up, getting that goal, really grinding. That line was buzzing, and they were talking about it all night. Him and Tom Wilson, were we going to see a fight? I think just knowing that he's on the roster and what he's done to Tom Wilson in the past, really, you don't want to start stuff because he's coming right out.
I know. I was half expecting Bruce Buffer to be announcing the red corner and the blue corner, and here they come. But the highlight for me, I think, was that hit along the boards. And I get a little bit sick and tired of the comments that say things like, hitting means that you don't possess the puck. I mean, you're going to not possess the puck for just about 50% of the game. And then the other half, that hopefully the puck's on your stick. Ryan Reeves takes full advantage of when you're not paying attention to him being behind you. And that hit, I mean, it was gorgeous. Separate body from puck. Result is some loose change and a 2-on-1 and a gorgeous finish. And then a forward covering on the 2-on-1 even better, overcommitting and leaving Goudreau right open for a beautiful finish. And I think you had said something too before we started about their goalie situation. How does it feel to have the confidence that we have elite goaltending behind a good team as opposed to shaky goaltending in some of these teams that don't maybe necessarily value it as high? I know teams like the Hurricanes in years past have always rode with what I would call a double backup situation where, you really don't have that confidence. How lucky are we that we really went from Hall of Famer in Henrik Lundqvist, number 6 all time in wins of NHL history. Now we're not talking about Rangers history, NHL history, and in there with Elite Company and into Igor, who will more than likely have his name somewhere along that top 20 people as well. It's crazy to think.
The only thing I can see that has happened that close in sports in recent history goes back to the NFL, where it went from Brett Favre right to Aaron Rodgers, and it was just like passing the torch. The same thing, like you two Hall of Famers back to back. Like obviously we don't know what's in for the rest of Igor's career, but like I think he has 50 wins already total in his 2 seasons, like one of the fastest goaltenders to get to that mark. So that's great. Couple points I wanted to bring up about the game last night, the Capitals game specifically, was it just looked like a different team from last year when we played the Capitals. Like I would be so frustrated at the TV watching us lose the puck in the neutral zone, not following up on passes, and really just losing the battle, the hard fought battle, as Valaket would say, like when you need to. And we were there, like a couple squeaked through, like Caps had their opportunities, but that's going to happen against a good high scoring team like that. But we really shut them down like that. It wasn't until like 3-1, 3-0 when I was like, we're dominating them. But like shots were a little lower than them, but like I said, we capitalized on our opportunities, and that was great.
Yeah, Igor made 36 saves. I think when you look at the picture to win a hockey game, you need to score like 3 goals, like for sure. Like if you're going to stop a certain amount, 30 would be ideal. If your goalie's going to make you 30 saves and you're going to score 3 goals a night, I don't care who you are, you in the National, you have a spot, you have a chance any given Sunday type of thing. But I think what we're showing is like we can score, we can be choosy, we can fall behind and not get
comeback wins. I think we're tied on comeback wins in the NHL.
Yeah, it's about staying the course and just not getting too ahead of yourself. And I think these guys really understand that the offense is going to come, and that most importantly, the saves are going to come, and that it's not a lost effort to keep trying, even if we fall behind a little bit, that you got a guy back there that you can put full trust into. How about, too, I noticed a lot that they dumped the puck in very foolishly last night, they being the Capitals. They reminded me a little bit of what used to happen with us, where we would dump the puck in and there would be dump, no chase. It would just be, let's do this in lieu of a better option. But what I saw was the Rangers noticing that happening, already getting the Jets working, and really like pinning them in their own zone, or making them pay for an unopportune line change. I saw so many little nuances that I didn't see last year. And maybe this is the difference between a guy like Gerard Gallant, who knows when to kind of squeeze that extra little pressure out there, I think, or where to match up the lines better. But I really just thought that the entire game was well played. And then you forget that you're missing guys like Kako that get highlighted by the fact that guys like Laugh had a fantastic, one of the best games I think that we've ever watched Laugh play.
Really helping him play up on that top line.
And how about maybe just the idea that like maybe he just quietly scores as a peak player in his prime, 70 to 80 points quietly. Because you don't have to be the flashiest. I loved both of those plays. They were flashy in their own right. No one talks about the fact, he scored the goal. Yeah, he had the deflection. He completely stripped the puck from the guy. It just happened to fall on someone else's stick. Nonchalantly skating where he's supposed to be around the net, strips the puck. It pops loose. Shot goes on net. And where is he? Directly in front of the net, screening the goaltender.
And he's fast.
Side. Sorry?
He's fast.
He's quick. Like, I think everyone talks about how fast Fox understands the game. Laugh is so young to be playing with these guys and knowing I got Mika Zibanejad right behind me. And that soft little touch play, he's playing hockey. He's not going out there to do the job of hockey. That's his paycheck, yes. But when you see Laugh play, that's my favorite thing about him. It's infectious. He's literally a child. I mean, yes, but like that little through the legs pass, I think he had his tongue out, man. He's like, woo, and just it was slick, man. And I don't need to see the Michigan slam dunks out of this kid specifically. I just want to see him being happy with playing hockey, because then he's gonna let those shots rip everyone's falling in love with this.
He's only going to get better. That's all I see.
Yeah. Well, I want to see goals like that. I don't know if you saw the Matthews goal. He just walks in and just rips it.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
just
it's like
ripped it in.
that blind confidence of like, no, I know I'm good. I can't wait to see that type of stuff out of Laugh, because that's really when his game is going to fully come around, when he's playing with top line guys and he knows that the coach trusts him, they trust him, and that he should do it too. But those to me were the highlights.
I think also Adam Fox had a better game. That was his second assist since he came back. First couple games he was a little sluggish. He had I think he had one in the Detroit game. But other than that, he's been just just getting back out on the ice, getting back to the speed. And last night he had definitely some crisp passes. So that was good to see Fox getting back to before the All-Star game and that injury.
Yeah, I think what we're gonna see it really right now down the stretch is like how deep we are, because it's been
Injuries happen.
exposed. Yeah, it's been exposed at this right wing position specifically, with Sammy Blais being on a prolonged injury. Not that in my opinion, was ever the answer in the top echelon of our right wing depth, but it's becoming glaringly obvious as we get down the stretch that we do need to see what we really have and see how far. I think Barron last night looked like he belonged in the NHL. And I
He
think
looked
that's
way more physical. He's shooting. He was getting the passes to Rooney. He was looking like a lot better out there.
What strikes me as funny is that like we have such a deep prospect pool. And we always talk about that, but some of these guys now aren't prospects anymore. But we have such a deep pool of youth now that guys like that kind of get overlooked. Barron, who's been here the whole time, just developing and kind of accepting the role that I'm not this draft pick that everyone in the room is talking about. I'm a big kid who's got to work hard to get this spot, because there's other kids maybe that aren't going to have this handed to them, but their names are more set in stone than mine. And every single time, I remember when JT Miller was 20 and he just kind of kept his nose down and got the call-ups. And then every once in a while you get those guys that take the job, they stay there and they never look back. So I kind of hope that eventually a spot, I don't know how it happens, but opens up for Barron to keep a job down the line, because I like that. I like that style. And I think that it lends itself to what we have, or at least the openings that we have for him right now. But
all right, Steve, let me read you this list. Pavelski, Claude Giroux, Giordano, Riley Smith, Phil Kessel, Andy Green, Cal Clutterbuck, Ricard Raquel, Philip Forsberg, Scheifele, JT Miller. Do you know what that list is?
People you think that we maybe potentially trade for, and
a very senior list. But
yeah,
it seems like anybody who's in the last year of their contract around the NHL and is over the age of 28 has been linked to the Rangers in some regards for the last 3 or 4 weeks. We got the deadline March 21st, so we still got almost a month. But
I don't think it would be groundbreaking to say we need a middle six right winger and maybe a veteran defenseman. I don't think that would be a real statement. And I don't think I have to predict anything wild, but I'm going to say that we make a trade with Montreal. I just think it happens.
Who do you think we got? Toronto?
Someone that who do we lose is the most important thing. I think Gordon takes one of his prized possessions and we get a little sweetener out of the deal. I don't know what happens, but I think that we make a trade with Montreal, as maybe not a ground shaking one. And out of the list you mentioned, who would I maybe like? Forsberg is attractive. The money doesn't really make a lot of sense. The position doesn't.
Ricard Raquel's attractive.
Ricard Raquel,
a little younger.
Ricard Raquel has a soft spot in my heart, as he was on the fantasy winning Stanley Cup team for Team Potvin Sucks in late 2018. But I think that a Riley Smith. For some reason I have this connection in mind where we get a guy who fits in because the coach knows how to kind of push his buttons. So I'm gonna say that we get maybe a Riley Smith or some right wing depth out of Vegas, and perhaps a depth seventh defenseman out of Montreal, or just anything out of Montreal, because I do think that
I do see what you're
Gordon's gonna
saying.
want it.
The Gordon connection is definitely a possibility for something to happen. And I
What
think
do you
he
think
put
happens?
what?
What do you think happens?
Here's the thing. I don't think Drury gives up people for nothing. And like I read that list and like there's no one that I'm like, man, I really want to see that guy in the Rangers. So I think it's gonna come down to like what trades happen around the league first. If there's an opportunity to get somebody, he will. But I don't think like he's gonna give up anybody. And like looking at the team now, like yeah, a couple tweaks here and there, but like chemistry wise, like you're risking like getting someone involved later in the season, like we're buzzing. The Rangers are buzzing. The Rangers are nasty. Like, that's what people are talking about. Like that's I wouldn't change up too much unless you can like plug in the right piece for the right price.
Talking
For
about
Gorgiev though, maybe because he's gonna get like we're not gonna be able to sign him after that. So maybe if like something for him would be like
correct.
he's got to do better up in Edmonton than like Kosh or Mike Smith. Like, come on.
I think that Gorgiev's proven that he can play a starting role and maybe doesn't necessarily thrive in a backup role, which has kind of been the case. We've seen the Talbots, we've seen the Rantas, and maybe it's just Benny Allaire back there. Who knows? But I think we've seen this story before, and if I'm right, Gorgiev gets a starting position somewhere and plays above average. I think he's a perfectly fine backup, but something doesn't lend itself quite right in either his mind or his style, or maybe he just gets hot and he likes to stay in the net. But it certainly seems apparent to me that there's an odd bitterness from Gorgiev to Igor. I don't know if you've noticed it, but in their handshakes, that they're certainly not Olmark and Swayman, and
I've seen it, and here's the thing though, like I don't blame Gorgiev because like the what was that, like the wild card playoff during the COVID season, like he should have gotten the nod up there. Like there was times like I just feel like it was his time, and he was just we're just gonna wait on Igor. We're waiting on this guy. Like we're waiting on this guy. This guy is the apparent heir to Henrik Lundqvist's throne. Like his name was never tossed about, kind of like what you were saying about Morgan Barron. Like he was never gonna be that guy. Like, and he proved that he could definitely be a starter in the NHL, and he never got a shot. So, and that's the guy who kind of like took his opportunity. So I could see why. Olmark and Swayman were never the they were never really supposed to be there that much. So they're both just happy to be in the NHL. Like that was Rask's job to lose, and like Swayman was behind him. Then all that happened. Like they're just happy to be out there winning games.
How about Zdeno Chara becoming the longest standing defenseman to play, the longest defenseman in the NHL, played the most games, and in the same season, Tuukka Rask retiring as the same year that Henrik Lundqvist is in the broadcast booth. I feel like I'm living in like the Twilight Zone, where you got
Sean Avery's comeback career down with Orlando is done before it even started.
Yeah. It's such
that's what the Twilight years are, and Yager's over there at 50 still playing professionally. Like that's what we got.
And as long as the Rangers are nasty, we'll have something to talk about.
That's what I'm liking. All right, we got a big game tomorrow against the Pens, afternoon game, feeling like early 90s game.
Yeah.
So
divisional points are important, although a little bit less important this year. I feel like the top four and the bottom four are pretty well spoken for.
Columbus is pulling what we were trying to pull last year by just staying around like 10 points in there.
To me, it feels the same as this does as a Ranger fan as when we're not in a good spot. It's like, oh, all we have to do is
yeah. And the Pens, Rangers, and Canes have to just keep losing.
Yeah,
You might
when
be right on that, but
a 6-team list of all things that need to happen for you to make the playoffs,
you know,
it does remind you of those are the dark years, man.
when you're
Right there,
not good enough to get a good pick, but you're just like right there looking up, like we could be there if we were only in the West.
yeah, no more of that, man. I said it earlier, but I think for a good decade and a half, we're gonna have plenty of reason to be excited. And I don't say that for any specific player, but I think the way that we've aligned ourselves and the fact that we've created an attractive spot to continue to build on this is something to be happy about as both the fanatic side of me that's going to root night and day regardless, and also the fan side of me that's really tunneled into liking who's in front of us. So let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, brother.